Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We're going to be analyzing Chapter 8, The Queen's Croquet Ground. We left off, if you look at the top, Alice nibbling at the mushrooms to bring her size down to about 1 foot and talking, and actually a foot high, and talking in, taking in, and walking in. That should be walking in. Sorry about that. In the beautiful garden among the bright flower beds and cool fountains. See if we can fix that. Let's do that, because sometimes we type too fast, right? Walking. See what one word will do? It won't even do that because I can't get into it. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Walking. There. We want to be proper, right? Small W. Okay. It sounds like heaven, doesn't it? Huh? Among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains. So here we go. So she walks through there, and a large rose tree stood near the center of the garden. The roses growing on it were white, but there were 3 gardeners. Gardeners, remember the word gardeners, right? Busily painting them red. Well, all of a sudden, that bright flower bed and cool fountain that it's beautiful here, is suddenly a little different. They're painting white roses red. So she thinks this is very curious. Remember, we looked at words before, the word curious and things like that. So she went nearer to watch them, and just as she came up to them, she heard one of the gardeners say, "Look now, 5. Don't go splashing paint over me like that. Look now, 5." So 5 is the name of new character. We're meeting some new characters here. The new character, his name, her name, whatever name, is 5. Don't look at the picture here, all right? But we know there are going to be cards. We're going to find that out. But don't look at the picture. So don't splash paint over it. "I couldn't help it," said 5 in a sulky tone. 7 jogged my elbow. Now, we don't know which one said, told 5, quit splashing paint. But according to the 5 said 5 said in a sulky tone, 7 jogged my elbow. So there's a new character, 7. 7 jogged 5 and splashed paint on the person accusing 5. But we don't know his name yet. On which 7 looked up and said, "That's right, 5. Always lay the blame on others." So that type of conversation sounds familiar, isn't it? And somebody blames somebody for something. "You'd better not talk," said 5. "I heard the Queen say only yesterday you deserve to be beheaded." I think we should recall that there was a talk before about somebody beheading, I think, somebody. "What for?" said the one who had spoken first. You see how the narrator, who's narrating this? The third person narrator. You see how the narrator is slowly going to reveal who this person talking is, the one who got paint splashed on him, who had spoken first. "What were you going to be beheaded for?" Next page. "That's none of your business, 2, said 7. So now we know who the first person talking was. It was 2. So we have 2, we have 5, and we have 7. Those are numbers, not names of people, right? But in this case, the way they're using it in a sentence, it's a noun. Ladies and gentlemen, noun. Let me write that down there. Noun. Noun. The noun is the name of a person, place, or thing. Noun. Noun. Person, place, or thing. Okay? So in this case, it's the name of these gardeners. These are gardeners. 2, 5, and 7. How'd you like to go around life with a name like that? With 2. Hey, 2, come here. Me too? You talking me too? Stop it. "Yes, it is his business," said 5, "and I'll tell him," and there's the dash, "it was for bringing the cook tulip roots instead of onions." So he was going to be beheaded for bringing the cook tulip roots instead of onions. And you can look up what a tulip root looks like. See if it looks like an onion. I'm going to guess it's close. 7 flung down his brush, and he had just begun, well, of all the unjust things, when his eye chanced to fall upon Alice. They didn't notice that she's listening to them, and he sees Alice as she stood watching them, and then he checked himself suddenly. He stopped talking. The other gardeners looked around also, and all of them bowed low. This is a very interesting movement. They bow to Alice. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't recall in any chapter thus far anybody bowing to Alice. Do you? Well, they bow to her. So Alice says timidly, remember the word timidly? We talked about that word. Would you tell me, please, why you are painting those roses red? Alice is inquisitive. She wants to know what's going on. 5 and 7 said nothing, but they looked at 2. 2 began in a low voice. Why, the fact is, you see, miss, this here ought to have been a red rose tree, sorry. And we put a white one in by mistake. And if the queen was to find out, we should have our heads cut off, you know. We're going to stop there at the beginning of chapter 8. I want you to think about something. You can now, based on what's going on in these couple of paragraphs, these first 2 pages, we now know can you guess who the leader of the gardeners is, right? It's number 2, because he's the one who talks. He's also the one that, if you look at the prior page, look out now, 5, don't splash the paint over me like that. I couldn't help it. 7, so 2 had the paint splashed on him, and then 5 and 7 are whatever they are, but paint. Paint was there, and in this case, 2 is the leader. But they're all 3. If the queen uncovers their mistake, will be beheaded. Their heads will be cut off. We don't know what they look like yet. We just know that they're gardeners and that they have names of 257. Don't look at the drawing. Use your imagination. Alice sees them as gardens. Remember, Alice in Wonderland is about Alice's perceptions. Now, I know I've told you this before, that perception is reality. That's one of the sayings in advertising. Perception is reality, and it kind of is, but it's really not. We're going to talk about perceptions and reality when we analyze this whole story, but your perceptions can be wrong. You can think you see something, but it's not really what you see. If you've ever been in an auto accident, God forbid you have, there's lots of things that happen in accidents that people observe that never happen. And that's because of human nature. So in this case, we don't want to conclude that, like the drawing says here, that these are playing cards. But we are going to conclude that they're gardeners, because we're following Alice, the third-person narrator. She's seeing gardeners, 257. They're going to lose their heads. Okay? The concept I want you to think about is this here, covering up a mistake. When you make a mistake, do you try to cover it up or do you expose it? This is one of the most interesting concepts in the book. There's lots of theories about mistakes, and I don't want to go into too many, but basically they boil down to 2. You either admit it right away or you try to cover it up. I want you to think about that. Which way do you think is the best way to deal with a mistake? Besides correcting it, so you don't make it again, of course. So you can practice Kaizen like the Japanese do. You want a continual improvement. Forget that, what I said that. I'll just confuse you. Do you cover up the mistake, or do you admit to the mistake, fix it, and go on? Well, Jimmy, it depends on the mistake. Well, of course it does, doesn't it? Or does it? We're going to talk about that. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy. We're reading and analyzing Chapter 8, The Queen's Croquet Ground. You can email me, Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com, Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. See you for the next couple of pages soon. Thanks for listening.